By titling his 2019 horror film, Us, Jordan Peele asks us to question, who is counted as us and who is counted as them? And where did this division come from? These questions go beyond film into the realm of critical theory and philosophy. According to German philosopher Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, humans define who they are, what they value, their morality, their consciousness, by separating themselves from a constructed other. Consider a teenager telling her parents she's a good kid because she's not like those teenagers who do drugs or stay out late. We are us because we are different from them. This creation of an other isn't just a philosophical concept, though. It has real historical and political implications. In his book Orientalism, Edward Said explains how Western countries cast the Orient as a strange and barbaric other in order to justify their exploitation of regions in Asia and the Middle East. Said writes, European culture gained in strength and identity by setting itself off against the Orient as a sort of surrogate and even underground self. In other words, by exaggerating the difference between the Western us and the Eastern them, Europe was able to shore up their own identity as a center of civilization and scholarship at the expense of the peoples they wanted to dominate. Said and Hegel don't think there's an inherent difference between us and them. Jordan Peele's Us tests this theory. Can we really say there's no difference between the middle-class Wilson family and the demonic, red jumpsuit-clad, giant scissor-holding Tethered? Let's find out. Us follows Adelaide Wilson and her family during a vacation to Santa Cruz that goes horribly wrong. The Wilsons are a relatable middle-class family. We have Dad, Gabe Wilson, the goofy provider who buys a secondhand motorboat that only sort of works. We have Zora, the too-cool-for-school teenage daughter who's always on her phone and wants to quit the track team. We have Jason, the reserved little brother who likes wearing a mask around the house and doing magic tricks. And then we have Adelaide, the protective and kind mom who had a traumatic experience as a child on the Santa Cruz Pier that haunts her to this day. That last part is maybe less relatable. Their vacation is interrupted when a family of doppelgangers in red jumpsuits show up in their yard to hunt them down. We find out later that not only has this family of doppelgangers, called the Tethered, finally escaped from their subterranean prison underneath a funhouse on the Santa Cruz Pier, but that every character in this movie has their own double that has escaped and is out for revenge. In Us, Jordan Peele blurs the line between us, the Wilsons, the audience, and the other, the Tethered, as a critique of how society's underclass is actually not as different from us as we think they are. Thinking back to Hegel's theory of the other, it seems obvious which characters are us and which characters are them. The Wilsons have relatable character traits, can all communicate through spoken language, and have the same cultural references to 90s hip-hop and Michael Jackson that we, the audience, do. By contrast, the Tethered seem to be clearly the other, as they languish in an underground testing site, devour live rabbits, move in animalistic ways, and, with the exception of Red, cannot speak. However, the Tethered have very distinct parallels to the above-ground characters, which makes the division between us and them murkier. The Tethered have the same traits, talents, and physical experiences as their upper world counterparts, but often to a more developed or exaggerated degree because they literally cannot do anything else. Whenever Adelaide dances ballet in the upper world, Red is forced to dance as well. When Adelaide gives birth to Jason via C-section in a hospital, the Shadow had to do it all herself, unmedicated. Because the Tethered lack free will, it is no wonder that they become freakishly talented at their counterparts' hobbies. For example, Jason has so much in his life besides his favorite lighter magic trick. He goes to school and on vacation. He can watch movies and talk to friends. By contrast, his doppelganger Pluto has nothing else besides the lighter magic trick and becomes so skilled at it that he burns off the lower half of his face when he's forced to mirror Jason practicing. While Zora can listen to music and hang out with friends, Umbre has nothing else in her life but running and becomes superhumanly fast. Neighborhood wine mom Kitty's doppelganger Dahlia takes on Kitty's affinity for beauty treatments and cosmetic procedures to an extreme degree, becoming eerily captivated by lip gloss she has never had access to before, and silently scream laughing into a mirror before carving giant scissors into her cheek for a DIY facelift. These parallels between the characters and their tethered counterparts transform the grotesque powers of the tethered into tragedy. These others are not so different from us, but have become uncanny due to the tragic accident of being born in their underground prison, rather than in the upper world familiar to the audience. Peele really blurs the line between the Wilsons and the tethered with Jason and his doppelganger Pluto. While Red reveals early on that the tethered are damned to mimic the movements of their upper world counterparts, younger brother Jason is the only person who's able to harness this mirroring and use it to protect his family. While hiding in a closet, Jason realizes that when he wears his mask, he can get Pluto to mimic his movements like a terrifying mirror exercise game. Jason is able to use this connection to escape from the closet and later get Pluto to walk backwards into a fire instead of attacking his family. However, Jason's knowledge of this mirroring power is manipulated by Red when she kidnaps Jason and takes him under the pier. But why is Jason the only upper worlder who can harness his connection to his doppelganger? My theory is that Jason is the only one with this special power because throughout the film, he's the only character coded as neurodivergent. When Kitty's twins refer to Jason as weird on the beach, Zora responds that he just has trouble focusing. Jason also relies on his mask as a security item and struggles with social situations. Because his brain seems to be wired differently, he may be more capable of reaching across the divide to the tethered. This interpretation of Jason echoes how neurodivergence is viewed as a spiritual asset across many cultures. Comparative religion scholar Joseph Campbell explains how in shamanic cultures, individuals with schizophrenia would often become spiritual leaders because their hallucinations were interpreted as evidence of a heightened connection to the spirit world. Scholars of Irish mythology have connected changelings, or fairy children, who are blessed with uncanny knowledge, to traits that we would now associate with autism. Jason's ability to reach across the veil to the tethered also explains why he's the only family member to uncover the film's final twist, that Adelaide has really been a tethered all along. In the last few minutes of the film, Adelaide and the Wilsons escape from the tethered and drive in an abandoned ambulance towards Mexico. But just as the audience is about to let out a sigh of relief, Peele provides us with a flashback that changes everything. We know that as a child, Adelaide wandered into the funhouse and came face to face with her double. But now we learn that her tethered version knocked her out and switched places with her after shackling her to a bed. The tethered girl then returns to the upper world, but is unable to speak, leading to the visits with the child psychologist we saw at the beginning of the film. In reality, the character we know as Adelaide was born a tethered and learned to speak and adapt to the upper world, using her tethered talents to become an accomplished ballet dancer. By contrast, the little girl from the upper world became the vengeful jumpsuit-clad Red, who's able to speak and command the tethered below because she knows exactly what is out there on the surface. Her vocal cords may have atrophied, but she's aware that an alternative to the tethered suffering exists. This big reveal leaves the audience unsettled. Our division between Adelaide, us, and Red, the other, completely falls apart. We have been rooting for Adelaide throughout the whole film, but now we realize the horrible treatment she knowingly condemned her counterpart to. I don't blame Adelaide for her survival instinct, but it's troubling to realize that the character we had thought was the film's moral compass, and thus the most relatable to us, the viewers, is not who she seems. Peele not only dissolves the line between us and them, but shows how this dichotomy is created by people to tell our own stories, creating an other to define our own consciousness. For the Tethered, led by Red, they are a subterranean us being oppressed by a cruel upper world them. The Tethered have no choice but to define their identity in relation to this unseen other, as they are robbed of any free will based on the choices their counterparts make. They are forced to have children they don't want, have only sharp scissors to play with, and are at the mercy of whatever physical sensations their upper world doubles curse them to experience. It's no wonder that Red builds a mythology of liberatory revenge for the Tethered, albeit one based on the limited understanding of a 1980s elementary schooler. Her love of Michael Jackson's Thriller inspires the Tethered's red jumpsuit uniforms. The Hands Across America fundraising campaign that was frequently advertised on TV in the 80s becomes a symbol of hope for the Tethered to unite and join hands as they take their rightful place in the upper world. Filled with this childlike optimism, Red never knew that the Hands Across America fundraising campaign was only semi-successful and was among the last of the 1980s celebrity-sponsored charity events, ultimately falling out of favor due to widespread compassion fatigue and debates about these events' effectiveness. Instead, Red describes her return to the promised land of the upper world through religious phrases like miracle and a promise to deliver her people from this misery. Here, the Tethered are achieving Hegelian consciousness as they are crafting a narrative and defining themselves based on their struggle against an other. In this case, their other is the people who live above ground. That means the Tethered, despite their monstrous ways, are actually engaging in a deeply human process. This collective mythologizing amongst the Tethered humanizes them and shows the audience that we may be more similar to the Tethered than we think. As Edward Said shows us, the creation of an other has real social and political consequences. Throughout Us, Jordan Peele wants us to reflect on this too. When we first meet the Tethered, Red asserts that
we're Americans.
Through the Tethered, we begin to see Peele's critique of our society's underclass, people who are low income, incarcerated, or institutionalized, and how these divisions between us and them are arbitrary and often inhumane. When we create these divisions, like the film's abandoned government project that created the Tethered to control the ones above like puppets, building resentment becomes inevitable until it boils over into the horrific revenge plot we see throughout the film. Us asks the audience if they really are deserving of their good fortune, or if in the end they're just lucky to have been born in the right place at the right time. This is a more abstract and symbolic message than the takeaways from Peele's previous film, Get Out, but that just means it's more fun to decode. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe for more film analysis. Until next time.